If lifting heavier weights automatically build more muscles, then powerlifters would look like Mr. Olympia competitors. But they don't. And if getting stronger guaranteed getting bigger, then you wouldn't see so many guys piling up more and more weights year after year, but still looking the same in the mirror. Today I'm going to explain the myth that many lifters still believe, and this is that lifting heavier in fewer sets builds more muscle. And I will show you what that type of training actually does and what it doesn't do, and also why it often leads to more injuries and even more body fat, not more muscle. For the ones new to my channel, I'm Dr. Nash Jocic, former bodybuilding champion. I competed 46 times and won 17 titles. I've been in bodybuilding for over 40 years. And during that time, I have personally coached over 3,500 clients and helped them to get in the best shape of their lives. I have also published 12 ebooks for you, which are fully loaded with detailed explanation about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you're interested in expanding your knowledge and widening your horizons, please click that link below in the comments and you can access my ebooks. So let us start with the biggest misunderstanding in the gym, and this is that strength and muscle growth are the same adaptation. Strength is largely a nervous system skill. When you get stronger, especially with doing lower reps and heavier weights, your body improves at, first of all, recruiting motor units, then firing them more efficiently, also coordinating muscles better and reducing inhibitory signals. And this means that you can lift more weights without adding much new muscle tissue. So this is why beginners can add 20, 30, even 40 kilos to a lift in a month, but still looking the same, because their adaptation is purely neural adaptation rather than muscle growth. So when someone says, "Oh, bro, I'm getting stronger, I can lift much more than before, I must be getting bigger," this is absolutely not true, and you have probably seen it so many times. You may get stronger, this is true, but not necessarily build more muscle. Now, this is where things start getting interesting and where most low-volume, heavy programs fall apart from hypertrophy. Muscle growth is not just one thing. There are two major components. Number one is myofibrillar hypertrophy, and this is growth of contractive proteins, actin and myosin, and this makes fiber denser and stronger. Now, number two is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. This is a different growth of the fluid, glycogen, enzymes, and non-contractile elements in the muscle cell. And this is actually what makes muscle looks full, round, and bigger. Now, heavy low-rep training mainly emphasizes the first type of growth, which is myofibrillar growth, while bodybuilding style training, which is moderate to high reps, more sets, more time under tension, stimulates much more the second type of growth, which is sarcoplasmic growth, but also stimulates myofibrillar growth. This is very important to remember, and I will explain why. Now, you can hear often that people say, "Oh yes, you can train with high reps and high sets, you get just pumped, and that growth is not sustainable, is not going to last long, because low rep heavyweight training builds myofibrils, and basically this is something that will last long because you build real muscle." So the confusion is that people believe that sarcoplasmic growth is not good enough, and if you stop training for a certain period of time, maybe a week or two, you're going to lose all your muscles. And if you train heavy, lower reps, less sets, you will keep your muscles, even if you stop training for a week or two. This really sounds a little bit scientific, but it's very, very misleading and is absolutely not true. So what happens when you stop training for a week or two? Yes, your muscles can look flatter because you start losing glycogen, you start losing cellular fluid, but it doesn't mean that you're losing muscles. Now, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is not just water, it's not just that pump with cellular fluid. It includes glycogen storage capacity. So when you train with higher number of reps and higher number of sets, your glycogen storage increases. Also increases mitochondrial density, increases the enzymes for energy production, also structural proteins within the cells. And this is a real biological adaptation, not a fake size. This is what a lot of people basically misunderstand, because they don't understand what sarcoplasmic growth really is. So now when you take a short break from training, maybe a week or two, you may lose your fullness, but this doesn't mean that you have lost contractile proteins or actually your muscles. Even strength-trained lifters lose size when glycogen drops. So even if you are not doing bodybuilding type of training, which is more sets and more reps, if you are doing heavy weights, lower reps, more towards a heavy duty system or maybe a powerlifting system, you will still lose roundness and fullness of your muscles simply because you're going to lose glycogen. So the same consequences will follow regardless of are you training with higher number of sets and reps or lower number of reps and sets with heavier weights. So you lose glycogen in any case. Now this is a key point. If somebody is building muscle protein or myofibrils year after year with heavy weights and lower reps, they should really look different year after year. They should be much, much better, but they're actually not. And we all know that people who are more inclined towards strength training, they most of the time look the same. They reach some ceiling, and even if they keep getting stronger, they are still looking the same. I see guys in the gyms training in that way. I see them for years, and although they are getting stronger, they're not getting bigger. So this is the problem that this heavy, low rep, low sets training actually gives you. Now let me tell you something very important. You need to understand that myofibrillar growth is triggered by tension, not by heavy weights. So it's that muscle tension or mechanical tension that is the key reason for muscle growth, not necessarily super heavy weights. So it's not just weight on the bar. When you do, let's say, 8 to 12 reps, control tempo, close to failure, and you do multiply hard sets, you create very high fiber tension. So not only 3 to 5 reps or 3 to 6 reps, but even higher number of reps, or even if you don't go to failure, you will still create very high fiber tension, and especially in the last few reps of your set. So even if you don't go to failure, last 3-4 reps of your set, either that set is 12 or 20 reps, will be extremely impactful regarding your mechanical tension, and you will be stimulated myofibrillar growth with high rep set too. When you do, let's say, low reps, 3 to 5, you create very high tension per rep, but a low overall time under tension during the set. So basically you are losing opportunity to have that critical time under tension that I have explained in a separate video, which you can watch obviously, and also lower number of reps, meaning fewer growth stimulating reps. Now, if you perform, let's say 8 to 15 reps, you are obviously causing high tension in later reps, so you're not losing that. You are achieving more total time under tension, again, which is extremely beneficial. You are causing more metabolite buildup, which means you are causing more swelling of the cell, more fiber fatigue, and more overall hypertrophy stimulus. So you see how much more benefits you have if you train with 8 to 15 reps rather than 3 to 5. It's not that more reps build better myofibrils. More reps build the same amount of myofibrils, but also build more total muscle size. And this is something that you need to understand. So it's not just myofibrils, but higher number of reps will allow you to stimulate sarcoplasmic growth. So you have both benefits in higher rep set than in lower rep set. Lower rep set, which stimulate just myofibrillar growth, again, but higher number of reps and also higher number of sets will stimulate the same amount of myofibrillar growth, but plus sarcoplasmic growth. So what actually builds myofibrils? Myofibrillar hypertrophy responds mainly to high mechanical tension in muscle fibers, as mentioned, also recruitment of high threshold motor units, and training close to failure. So these three things build myofibrils. You can get it with a heavy set with 3 to 5 reps, or hard set with 8 to 12 reps, or even 12 to 20 reps if you're going near failure. So you're going to get that myofibrillar growth anyway, regardless of number of reps that you're doing in the set. So remember that this is not just low reps, heavy weights, is also moderate weights, higher number of reps. Now, when you perform higher number of reps, what happens is because you're building fatigue, your body will have to recruit myofibrils, the biggest, strongest fibers, like type 2B, for example, simply because you are ending the set with very, very hard reps just before failure. So this is when you actually include white muscle fibers type 2B, which are the highest, but they have highest potential for growth. You are also including them in that particular set. So the last hard few reps of your 10 to 15 rep set will stimulate high threshold fibers that heavy weights and low reps do. So you get the same thing. Now, the real difference is that with heavy low reps, you create high tension per rep, but with moderate or high reps, you create high tension in later reps. Also, with heavy low reps, you have lower total time under tension, but with moderate to high number of reps, you have higher total time under tension. You see the difference is huge. Also, with heavy low reps, you have less metabolic stress, you have more neural adaptation, and with low reps, you build myofibrils. Now, with moderate reps, you will have more metabolic stress, more cellular hypertrophy, and on the top of building myofibrils, you will add more sarcoplasm, which is the content of the cell. So it is not that higher reps build better myofibrils, but actually they are causing myofibrillar growth, but also adding sarcoplasmic growth. So choice is yours. Either you want just one or you want both. Now, why heavy only training can fall short? This is because the total stimulus is lower. It may not maximize fiber size increase, cellular expansion, and overall muscle cross-section, which will happen only with higher number of reps and higher number of sets. You want scientific proof for that? Just look back into the history of bodybuilding and see what overwhelming majority of bodybuilders did. Now, let me mention this thing to you. People who take steroids, they may get away with heavy only type of training, as some did, but very, very few people did. Now, if you're natural, you will definitely not be able to optimize your muscle growth, because you will be stimulating only myofibrillar growth, but not sarcoplasmic growth. If even with steroids, most of the professional bodybuilders are actually training with higher number of reps and higher number of sets, simply because they don't want just half of the cake. They want the whole one. They want not just myofibrillar growth, they want sarcoplasmic growth too. And this is why, from the golden era all the way up to date, we have professional bodybuilders exclusively 99.99% training with high number of sets and high number of reps, or volume training, simply because they don't want to lose on sarcoplasmic growth. Now, if you're natural, for you is more important the following: total training volume, metabolic stress, cell swelling, repeated fiber recruitment, and also longer time under tension. I have trained thousands of natural bodybuilders. My son is also natural, and they have all benefited from this type of training. I never heard anybody benefited from strength training only. So be careful if you're natural, because you really want to optimize all avenues of muscle growth, not just myofibrillar growth, but also sarcoplasmic growth, which is even more important for you. In other words, the naturals need bigger overall growth signal, stimulus, in order to force the body to adapt. Now, there is another thing that I must mention, and it's very important, and this is the injury trade-off. So when people train with heavy weights and lower number of reps, they are constantly occupied and inclined towards lifting heavier, lifting heavier. If I don't lift heavier, I'm not going to get bigger. So they keep lifting heavier by all cost. Now, when you constantly try to lift heavier, you keep forgetting about the technique, you keep forgetting about time and attention, you start forgetting about full range of motion, so you are losing on many fronts. Now, just chasing heavier weights usually leads to wrong form, cheating, bouncing, absolutely stressing more joints and connective tissues than muscles, targeted muscles. So, for example, doing squats, there is one way of doing squats with right weight, let's say for 20 reps, in perfect form, full range of motion. And there is another way of doing it with double the weight, low number of reps, leaning forward, not going all the way down, stressing yourself beyond belief, just in order to lift heavier. Yes, you can be getting stronger. You may be able to lift heavier in a week or two, but your legs will never change. And I see that every single day. In the gym where I am, in MuscleWorks, unfortunately, more and more people are following that type of training than real bodybuilding training. The real reason for that is that the real bodybuilding training is, first of all, very intelligent approach. Second is very knowledgeable approach. Third is very difficult approach. It requires more commitment, more determination, more focusing, and because of all these things that I mentioned, bodybuilding type of training is not really as attractive because it's asking for too much. If you are just going to lift heavier, rest 5-10 minutes between the sets, do 3 or 4 reps, sacrifice the form, sacrifice your joint health, then fine, it's easy. Everybody can do that. I can tell you, I've done similar things. I can tell you that squatting 6 reps with 4 plates each side is much easier than doing 2 plates for 20 or 30 reps in perfect form. So if you don't believe me, give it a go. Choose the way that you can lift 5 times, whatever form you want, and then try to do the same thing with half of the weight on your bar, 20 reps in perfect form, in perfect time and attention. And then come back to me and tell me what was easier and what was harder. And now you know the answer why bodybuilding type of training is losing popularity, simply because it's much harder. So yes, it is true that heavy type of training with low reps causes more injuries. This is nothing new. You have probably seen many people injuring their knees, their lower back, their elbows, shoulders, not to mention, obviously, simply because they are lifting too heavy. They're stressing their joints more than the muscles. Bodybuilding is all about stressing the muscle that you're targeting. If you're doing chest, you should be stressing chest more than anything else, not your shoulders or triceps or elbows. If you're doing legs, you should be stressing your quads, not your knees, not your lower back. So if you're training back, you should stress your back muscles, not your lower back, not your shoulders. But these things people obviously overlook all the time. And this is why people who are training heavy with low reps, even professional bodybuilders who did it, they ended up with devastating injuries. They ripped their biceps tendons, triceps tendons, shoulders. Look at Dorian Yates, for example, the legendary Mr. Olympia. He has achieved phenomenal results, but because of that type of training, which is absolutely suicidal, he have ended up in the state that he cannot even perform any bodybuilding training is not even shy of what he used to do. So this is why he's not basically doing bodybuilding anymore. I don't even know if he can do anything. because his shoulders are gone, biceps is ripped, triceps was torn as well, hip was damaged. So this type of training is something that will absolutely guarantee you injuries sooner or later. Most of the injuries don't happen immediately. They are accumulated because of overstressed connective tissue, overstressed tendons and ligaments. So that's when that stress accumulates, the day will arrive when the stressed tendon or ligament cannot take it anymore, and they will just snap. And then you're going to have terrific injuries, most likely end of your competitive career if you're competing, but even if you're not, your training will be heavily devastated, and you're never going to be able to do the same effective training for chest or legs or similar once you sustain these type of injuries. So think twice about that. Now there is another caveat with heavy training with low reps and low number of sets. And this is that you can actually get much fatter if you're training like this. The reason for that is that low rep, low set, heavy training burns much less calories per training session and also much less glycogen. So usually people who want to get stronger, they eat more. They are constantly in that bulking phase, and they have that tendency, that false belief that if they eat more, if they are constantly in that surplus, they will get stronger. Yes, they will get stronger, but ultimately they will get fatter. Again, I see people like that every single day in my gym. There are a lot of them, serious bodybuilders, some even semi-professionals. They are constantly fat. And the reason for that is that heavy type of training with low number of sets and low number of reps, which actually burns less calories and less glycogen, because they're burning less glycogen and still eating quite a lot, actually, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates cannot go anywhere else because glycogen stores are almost always full, and they simply get converted into fat, fat cells. And this is another caveat. I experienced that when I started my bodybuilding career, training 2 years, like following that heavy-duty training system, advocated by Mike Mentzer. I was getting stronger. I was also getting a bit bigger, but I was getting fatter, and I didn't look like a bodybuilder at all. My muscles were not full, they were not round. I was just like a big guy who can lift a lot of weight. And that was very impressive for me, for my ego in that stage. I was only like 19 years old. But then when I went and saw first bodybuilding show, everything changed. I talked to people, and then I understood that actually bodybuilders are training very, very differently than I was doing. And the diet that they're following is completely opposite to what I was doing, as Mike Mentzer suggested, 60 to 70% carbohydrates, 20% protein and 10% fat. So I followed that. I ended up being fat. I had a huge problem getting rid of that fat. Once I got rid of that fat, I never ever followed these principles again. Heavy duty training principles, heavy weights, low reps, diet with predominantly carbohydrates. So that just went out of the window. I never did it. And ever since, I was always in very decent shape. And even now in the off season, I'm all shredded, basically. My legs are shredded, my six-pack is always out, my veins are everywhere. So guys, I speak about that in many videos, so you simply follow my advice on the diet and training, and you will end up being the same. If this is the case, everything that I have mentioned, why is this type of training still persisting? It's still around. More and more people are training some strength training. They're always asking me, oh, but in your program you don't talk about deadlifts. I mean, what do you mean deadlift? Bodybuilding doesn't need deadlift. What is deadlift for? What muscles do you target when you do deadlift? You're targeting the whole body. You're stressing yourself immensely for what? In order to lift the heavy weight from the ground up and then down? What is this for? We never used to do deadlifts in 90s when I competed. Nobody did it. There's so many more effective exercises that will actually target particular muscles, not something which I call laboring, literally lifting the weight from the floor up. For what? Oh, for the back. No, it's not for the back. It's for the back, for the hips, for the legs. You can get injured also. Your hips can go, your knees can go, your shoulders can go. It's just a nonsense exercise. If you're a power lifter, yes, that's a different story. But bodybuilding doesn't need that exercise. But more and more people are doing it, men and women. Oh, I can deadlift. So what if you can? Who cares about how much you can deadlift? Look at you. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see the body that you're dreaming about? No, of course not. Far away from that. So this is the trap. But then why is this type of training still persisting, still alive? Simply because this type of training is much easier to perform, number one. Number two, is easy to see improvement. This is a digital improvement in numbers, because you can easily record that you have improved. Oh, last month I was deadlifting 150, now I'm doing 180. Amazing achievement. Yes. And also, this type of training doesn't require the complexity, the comprehensiveness of bodybuilding approach, which is absolutely combination of training and nutrition, meaning you are training for muscle growth and consistent fat loss, so you're constantly in shape and you're constantly growing muscles. So this is complicated. This is nothing easy about it. You need a lot of knowledge to get there, and then you need consistency, and then you need to be a very strong character to do that. But just to lift heavier in deadlifts or bench press or squats, and be a bit stronger every month, regardless of how you look, yeah, that's easy. Everybody can do that. So this is why people are doing that. And in bodybuilding, obviously, the progress is slow. It's not measurable as in strength training. You don't see the changes because the weights is changing. The changes will come, but you have to be patient, consistent. You need to widen your knowledge, and you need to apply that in real training. Also, you have to follow that, as I mentioned, with a perfect diet. So when you put everything together, you see how comprehensive bodybuilding lifestyle is much more complicated and is obviously harder than just being a strength athlete. And is entirely up to you. If you want to lift heavy and train like a power lifter, that's fine. But if you want to train like a bodybuilder and look great with good muscles, great shape, symmetry, proportions, and also be very lean all the time, then you have to consider training differently. Higher number of sets, higher number of reps, and obviously proper diet. So strength is part of bodybuilding, but bodybuilding is not strength training. So don't confuse getting better at lifting weights with getting better at building muscle. And trust me, mirror is your best friend. It will never lie to you. And the mirror is not concerned how much you can bench or how much you can deadlift or how much you can squat. The mirror will always tell you the truth. So if you're looking good in the mirror, if you're muscular, if you're round, if your muscles are full, if you can see your six-pack, if your legs are split, if you're happy with yourself, you're doing the right thing. If you're not looking like that, but you can squat more or deadlift more, then I think you are on the wrong path. So guys, let me once again remind you that I have published 12 ebooks for you, which are fully loaded with detailed explanation about everything you always wanted to know in bodybuilding: muscle growth, training splits, training systems, training techniques, fat loss, lifestyle change, nutrition. Everything is there for you. So if you want to expand your knowledge and finally start growing muscles and burning body fat, you can click on the link in the comments and you can access my ebooks. Also, I would like you to watch this video in which I offer my other services like personalized training programs, personalized nutritional programs, telephone consultations, online coaching, and also for people who live in London, personal training. So if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, send me your comments, share the video, and I will see you in the next video.